Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I was falling asleep at the switch there almost. Nick is looking for his glasses, and I don't know, they've just magically disappeared. So I saw them around here, but, oh, there they are. Oh, they were right where we didn't expect them, right directly in front of him. Okay, welcome back to the Nick and Joe Show. I'm Joe, he's Nick. We are coming to you live from the Think Radio Broadcast Centre in Ottawa, Canada's national capital. And we've just been on fire. Another frenetic show. I love that word frenetic, in case you hadn't noticed, Nick. Okay, where do we want to go from here?
Well,
okay, you go ahead.
There's been some talk in education circles about canceling spring break because the students have, they want to graduate. A lot of students want to graduate high school, and teachers, they've got a lot of work to do to catch up because of the COVID lockdown. And there's a difference between online learning and face-to-face learning. Both have their place, but especially in the younger grades, the kids need that interaction. They need that, they need to be able to look up and see the teacher and get questions asked and build a sense of community that comes with being in school. I'm not going to say socialize, because schools are not the best places to socialize. If you've ever been outside a playground pre-COVID and not roll your window down, just listen to the language that comes off your average playground for grade school. You'd think these kids were all, 20-year-old hockey players or sailors. I mean, just some of the language is atrocious. And ask yourself if you want your kids socialized in that climate. But overall, there's this desire to cancel spring break because they've already had a lot of time. And when I say time off, I don't mean that they didn't do any schoolwork, but they've been out of class for quite a while. And my daughter has two that are in school now in the early grades. Haley, I think, is 7, and Emmy is 5. So they're just in grade 1 and grade 2 and that kind of thing. And she said, it was a real battle. The teachers were great, a real battle to keep the kids focused on class time at home because there's so many distractions, toys to play with down the hall and, all kinds of different things that take a kid's mind off because it's hard to keep them concentrating at that age. So when they went back to school, it was a huge relief for her because now she didn't have to watch over their shoulder to make sure they were still doing their work and they were getting educated and all that sort of thing. So there's that. But apparently some kids are saying, we need to have our March break because we have to, you don't have no idea how hard this online learning is. So that's kind of, I don't know how well a job I did setting the table on that, but that's kind of where things stand at the moment.
Well, Nick, the genesis of this issue in my mind, okay, what made me want to talk about it a little bit was a column in the Ottawa Citizen last week, or earlier this week, I should say, by a child psychologist by the name of Gail Beck. And full disclosure, I know Gail Beck somewhat. We had some professional interaction, I guess about 20-some-odd years ago, or thereabouts, or maybe a little less than 20 years ago. No, it would be 20 years ago now. So, I just want to clear that up in case anyone, thinks about it. But she wrote a column basically saying, the kids need this March break. And I've been hearing this from other people as well, other mental health professionals, basically saying kids, they need the break. It's an important thing. They have to have their break. And it just occurred to me exactly the way you're saying it, Nick, and that is that, and it's not so much the kids, it's not the students that are begging for it. I mean, remember, we're talking about grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 students. We're not just talking about high school students here. But they've been off. Schools in Ontario were closed for weeks. And they only just went back to school, 3 weeks ago?
About that.
And you're telling me that it's going to be, or you're suggesting, or these people are suggesting, that it's going to be psychologically damaging, the overstressing the children if they don't have their week off in March after only being at school for 3 weeks. Talk about raising snowflakes.
I'm going to be a little bit more cynical. I don't think it's the kids pushing for this. Now, there's going to be some kids who do, of course.
No, I don't think the kids are pushing for it at all, for whatever it's worth.
Okay. I think there's another organization within the educational system that is pushing for this. And that is probably, and I'm guessing here, I don't know for sure, but it would seem to me those who have the most to gain is teachers in the teachers union, which is pretty much all of them. Now, and even saying that, I'm not saying that every teacher is like that, but the leadership of the union is. And that's the attitude. Stick with us, boys. We'll see how much less we can get you to do and how much more we can get you paid for doing it mentality. It's typical of unions. We want more money, but we want to do less to earn it. And this is, to me, has got the teachers union written all over it. Who else would benefit? I mean, the kids need to be in school learning if they're going to have any chance at salvaging this year at all, assuming, of course, that the situation changes and that they go back to regular classes in the fall. They only have so many days of education. Are they willing to eat into their summer break and take from that 2 months off that teachers get to make up for the time if they give them this March break? Somehow me thinks not. I am a little bit skeptical that they would do that, entertain that, push that final leg, what is it, June, the end of June, towards the end of July? Oh, no. You're not going to see that happen, not in a million years. So the question is, follow the money, who benefits? And the kids don't benefit, that's for sure, because now they're being, the days, their days for education are being taken from them, and everybody's going, oh, you poor little children. Well, you know what? Children are very flexible. They're very adaptable. We don't give them enough credit. You're right about snowflakes. If you want snowflakes, raise snowflakes. They're going to be they will rise to whatever bar that we set for them. That's why, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, kids had a much higher, they just, maybe there wasn't as much to learn because science and the technology hadn't advanced to the way it has today. But the things that were there, they would sit in class and they would be obedient and they would do all these things because that's what was expected of them. And the parents were smart enough to back up the teachers. So a lot of the issues we have today, we didn't have, let's say, 80 to 100 years ago. The biggest problem they had was talking out of turn and blowing the spelling bee. That was about it. Today, it's a whole different kettle of fish. So I think that to take this March break, you're not taking it away from the kids. You're taking it away from the teachers. And again, I want to underscore this. I'm not painting every teacher with that brush. It's the leadership of the teachers union that I'm painting with that brush because they want to make sure their members say thank you later. And I don't know why any teacher with any self-respect would ever say thank you for that. And I know a lot of them, because our kids were in school too, care very much about their students, but they're not going to buck the union. They're not going to continue to teach when the union says you're off or gets them more time off. They're just not going to do it.
Well, Nick, I'm a skeptical person too. I like to think I'm a healthy skeptic. Maybe you're right, but I guess if I was going to push back a little bit on this, it would be in this way. I'm having trouble. I'm struggling trying to figure out what the upside is to teachers and to the union here as well, because it's not like they haven't also been out of the classroom. So, when students didn't go to school for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks.
Right.
The teachers also weren't in the classroom for that period of time. So,
Well, it begs the question, what were they doing then?
Well, I'm assuming there was online teaching, however that was organized. I don't know.
There certainly was. I'm not arguing that, but how much time does that take? They're teaching the same stuff. The classes, the course curriculum's already laid out.
You know what, Nick? I don't know. I heard a lot of complaints over the past year about the difficulties in online teaching. And, you know, again, I'm not cynical. I'm skeptical. I don't really understand what the difficulty was in teachers teaching online. It's different. Is it harder? Is it more complicated? I'm not sure that I agree that it is, but I'm open-minded. Maybe it is. But I still don't understand the argument that we shouldn't, that the kids need to have a March break now. Given the fact that they've lost so much learning during these intermittent lockdowns or closures of schools, I just don't get it. And I think that we've taught, you know, gosh, I don't want to get back into the COVID-19 debate. You know,
but it affects every aspect of life, though.
There's that vortex again, but I'm not entirely convinced that we've done right by our children in the way that they've been treated with respect to their education. And let's be fair. Let's be very honest here. I'm not a fan of government schools for a lot of reasons, okay? I sent my kids to private school at considerable sacrifice. It wasn't an elite school. It was a religious school. And I think that they came out of school more rounded, I think, in terms of their education than if they had gone to a government school. I still paid taxes for education that I had no access to in order to educate our children, and for not all of our kids are sending their own children to private school, but you know, some of the grandchildren are in private school, and some of the grandchildren are being homeschooled. So I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this whole argument that it would be detrimental for our children to not have their scheduled March break.
I think it would be detrimental if they did, because of the point you made earlier about having that time, that precious time, taken away from them right now, like during a week in March, where they could be making up for. When I say lost time, I agree with you. I'm not. See, we had a foot in both worlds too. We homeschooled some of our kids, and some of our kids went through the Catholic system, and so they were. All of them have done very well in school, and the ones who are now out in the workforce are doing quite nicely. Thank you very much. But at the same time, I'm not sure how to calibrate just how tough what it is the teachers are doing. I do know that every day lost in the classroom has to be made up somewhere else. There's a certain amount of curriculum they have to cover in order for the kids to graduate, no matter what system they're in. Now, if you're homeschooling, okay, you can stretch that out because you can play with the days. You can lengthen or shorten them as you need. You can give days off when you need to give days off. You can work on days you otherwise wouldn't work. Snow days don't affect you. There's all kinds of advantages to it, but there's drawbacks too. So it's hard, but I guess I'm having the same problem you are when I look ahead and I say,